and good afternoon. It's summertime up here in Bear Woods. The first official day of summer was last Friday. Up here at about 3,000 feet, all the flowers are starting to bloom. And it's time to get the macro lenses out and the close-up lenses and start doing some flowers and some other things here. So what I wanted to do is take a second and give you at least just one tip, if nothing else, that will improve your macro photography. Something that you can do that's really, really easy. A lot of times, like up here, I've got a little bit of a breeze, so I'm working against that. But I want to emphasize that it's not always necessary to photograph at f/22, f/16, anything like that. You can use the lower f-stops, f/8, f/11. But the way that you still maximize your depth of field when you're doing that is to make sure that your camera is perfectly parallel to your subject. So I want to take a few minutes and just show you the advantage of making sure that you're perfectly parallel, that you're able to get the decent depth of field without having to do focus stacking, without having to shoot at f/16, f/22, because that means longer shutter speeds or higher ISOs, and you don't always want that. So we're going to take a second and just a quick brief second and take a look at shooting with the camera back parallel to the subject. Today I'm shooting with the Canon EOS RP and the Tamron 90mm f2.8 macro, all that on top of the PhotoPro E6 Eagle Series tripod and gimbal head. Great little setup for this. I mean, I love using mirrorless cameras when I'm photographing macro because it's so much easier for me, to look at the camera screen versus having to lay down on the ground and everything else. Plus, using the live view on the mirrorless, of course, the viewfinder, I can just touch and zoom in, and I can see the area that I'm trying to photograph and make sure that critical sharpness is there. So we're going to readjust here in the camera, and I'm going to show you just making sure you're getting parallel to the camera, and I'll do a couple f-stops and some other things just to give you an idea of the difference in them. So let's readjust. So I'm setting up here and I'm trying to get as perfectly parallel, and I'll take my hand and I'll bring it up and make sure that my camera is on pretty much the same angle as the flower that I'm photographing. Just to give you an example, I'm going to do a couple images real quick at f2.8 and 1/80th of a second, 100 ISO. I've zoomed in. Again, mirrorless is great for doing macro because you can zoom in, not have to get down low and bend over and get fatigued. So 1/80th of a second at f2.8. Then I'm going to take it up to f4, reduce that shutter speed to 1/40th. Then I'm going to take it to 5.6, drop it down to 1/20th of a second. And I'm getting pretty close to that maximum depth that I'm looking for. I don't want the flower to be totally in focus. I'm trying to use it as a little bit of a color palette. So I'm going to take it up to f8, and I'm going to drop it down to 1/10th of a second. And that is perfect for me. That is exactly where I want it to be. I don't need that super depth of field of f/16, f/22. I've been able to maintain 1/10th of a second with this little breeze. That's about perfect. So everything is really just exactly where I want it to be. So I hope you've enjoyed this quick little macro tip here in Bear Woods. I just simply wanted to show you how easy it is to get parallel to your subject, and by doing so you can get a higher shutter speed. In this case, 1/10th of a second is still good. I'm using a cable release, got a good tripod, everything's good, and I only had to go to f8. So I was able to get the depth of field that I wanted to achieve by using a slightly higher shutter speed, simply by getting parallel. So again, get as parallel to your subject as you can. You don't always have to shoot it at f/16, f/22, or any of those higher f-stops to go ahead and get the maximum depth of field or the required depth of field. If you like the video, I ask that at the end you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my video channel if you don't already. And thank you again, and we'll see you soon.